You need some help getting better at ShinobiStriker? Whenever the enemies knock you out, they're spam blocking your dead body and calling you dog water? Well, today we're gonna fix that. Yo, what up you guys? It's BeardRector2050 and welcome back to a new video here on the channel. And if you're new here and any of these tips help improve your playstyle at all, consider subscribing because I do all sorts of content on the channel such as ninja tool reviews, weapon and DLC updates, as well as builds and so much more on this game. But today, I'm gonna give you guys 5 tips to improve your skills on Shinobi Strikers. Now the order that I'm going to be going in today is the least most important to the most important tip to have when in combat. So starting it off at the number 5 spot, we have clothing skills, bro. Now clothing skills are really overlooked in the game. It can really change the tide of a battle or even help you out tremendously whenever you're going up against multiple enemies. If you have esoteric scrolls, I highly recommend going to grab every single double S tier outfit inside of the shop because you'll never know what type of skill that it has on it, bro. Some skills may include you having more defense at the cost of some health. Some might include you having more attack at the cost of charging strength. But all I can say is that it's really good to have this advantage in game because you'll never know how much more damage you can do or how good your build can actually be until you throw on the correct skills for your build. Now when you're a healer, it's always smart to throw on something like boost health recovery amount or boost ninja tool cooldown time, and that's really good for a healing class because you can get more health back as well as use your ninja tool more frequently, making sure you can get more health over to your teammates. Or on defense class, you can run something that'll give you more ninjutsu damage and that'll make you take less damage from enemy ninjutsu, so you can easily run the flag across the map if you're playing flag battle or even deal with multiple enemies if one of your teammates are getting targeted. It's a good idea to tell your teammates, if you have any, what skills you're going to be running as well as what role you're going to be playing, so they can play different roles as well as put on different skills to match the synergy of your build. This will also help build a strategy before going into games as well as make them a lot easier. Now if you're a loner loser like me and you have no friends, it's a good idea to run something a bit more selfish because you might not have teammates there to help you out. So something that'll make you take less ninjutsu damage as well as something that'll help you boost the substitution cooldown time would really help you out in this situation. Now if there's an outfit that you want to use for a role but it does not have the right skills, remember that you can always go into 10Tem's item shop, go into the Shinobi boost, and for 80,000 to 120,000 Rio you can change the skill of that clothing so it'll match the role that you want to use. That's enough from the number 5 spot. Now let's get into the number 4 spot, which is enemy targeting. Now this might not come as a shock to any of you, but healers take the number 1 priority, bro. If there's a healer on the team, make sure you go on ahead off the beginning of the match, press the button you have to check the enemy names and see if they have a healer, because that's the person you should be going for off the beginning. Sometimes I like to run 2 healers. Now if you have an instance where there's 2 healers on the team and you don't have a friend that's playing with you currently, I highly recommend targeting one of them, but making sure that the other healer is not there to heal each other up, because at that point the half the team is on you. That means that the other half is coming to support the healers. Since healers have the least amount of health out of all the role types, with constant pressure, solid combos, and decent ninjutsu, you can take advantage of the healer's limited health, making it easier for your teammates to take out the opposing side. Now that the healer is out of the way, let's focus on the defense class. The reason why defense takes priority over attack and range is because it has the combined power of the 2 classes. Defense has the combo strength of attack while having the ninjutsu damage of a ranged class. But the added bonuses of a defense class is that the weapon's heavy attack can be interrupted by normal combos, ninjutsu tend to have a bit of super armor, and it also has the most health out of any of the other role types. Now this might sound kind of overpowered, and that's just because it is, but some of the negatives about defense class is that they move pretty slowly running wise, they have bad charging strength, and most mid-air weapon combos are pretty short, so they can be beaten. If you guys want to see an example of an overpowered defense class, click the video at the top right of the screen right about now. This build can 1 combo KO all classes except its own, so check that out if you want. If you have the guts to challenge a defense by yourself, make sure you're around your team's healer if you have one so you can constantly regain health while fighting, because defense hits like truck cunt off an isekai anime, bro, and it's not going to be pretty, so make sure you're always aware of your team's position. Now that the tank and the healer are gone, it's a good time to take out the snipers, the ranged class. This class can be tricky when fighting because its weapons have a decent combo string and they deal big ninjutsu damage, but they tend to be more like support, staying a distance and doing damage from afar. The reason why I prioritize these guys over attack types is because they'll interrupt a 1v1 or burn you alive like my man Sasuke did Danzo with Amaterasu. So it's a really good idea to make sure you get these guys out of the fight because they can also hit multiple teammates with just one skill. Since the range class has the second lowest amount of health out of all the roles, you can take them out easier than a defense, but be patient with them though. You're going to want to figure out their ninjutsu usage patterns to find a good time to start up your combo. Once you've ended your combo, don't charge in for another because they tend to use their ninja tool to gain space between you two so they can use their ninjutsu without any worry. Don't forget that they have an unlimited amount of kunai at their disposal with the triangle or Y depending on what you're playing on. What I've noticed when playing against a ranged class is that specific roles have a much easier time of handling them than others. A smart attack versus a range seems to be pretty one-sided for the most part, with the attack winning the fight mostly. A range versus itself can be pretty flip-flop depending on what jutsu they're running. Defense tends to get pretty bullied surprisingly by the range since they're not the fastest and they have a lot of the skills that can cancel out the defense's attacks, and the healers actually have a chance now with the newest DLC update at beating a range class as long as they use their wits. And lastly, we have the attack class. These guys are overpowered, bro, coming in with the second most amount of health out of all the classes. Just because they're the last role, it doesn't mean that they're any less of a problem than the other roles. It's just a good idea to take them out beforehand to make fighting these guys much easier. Having a good attack can actually be way more helpful than having a ranged at times. These dudes are not a joke. I can't tell you how many times I've been having somebody in a combo and out of nowhere somebody threw a random flying kick out my jaw to get me away from their teammates. So let me give you guys an accurate representation, right? You have the ranged class, which is like dirty black beat up Air Force Ones, right? But then you have the attack class, which is like dirty black beat up steel toe rockstar polo boots, bro. And them motherfuckers are always ready for the smoke no matter when, no matter where. They don't care who you are. You could be a range, defense, healer. They don't care. You could be your own kind. It could be another attack, bro. They always come with the smoke and they are ready to throw down. I want to tell you just to avoid these guys at all costs, but let's be honest, we're going to have to fight one every now and then. So, what I would recommend doing is either staying at a distance or going toe-to-toe with these guys, because they're going to keep pursuing you no matter what, bro. They're not going to let you go. They're super persistent, and every single one of their ninjutsu are ready for close combat. So what I recommend doing is bringing in something that's either strong enough to knock these guys out, or jumping these guys, because they can do some pretty big damage themselves, bro. They are not to be slept on. This is the best advice I can give you for targeting all the classes, but obviously multiple enemies jumping your teammates takes priority over all the roles. But that's it for the number 4 spot. Let's go on ahead and move on to scroll priority. You might be asking, why should I grab the scrolls? I've noticed that in a lot of matches, mainly quick matches, but sometimes in the Ninja World League as well, that nobody goes for the scrolls. Guys, you have to go for the scrolls. They can change the direction of a fight in seconds and give buffs to your entire team. There's currently 6 types of scrolls in matches. There's 2 blue scrolls, so keep an eye out on the shade of blue it is. The dark blue scroll increases your team's speed and tracking for 30 seconds. The lightish tillage blue scroll, which cools down your ninjutsu for 30 seconds. The red scroll, which gives your team an attack buff for 30 seconds. The green scroll, which constantly heals your team for 30 seconds. The yellow scroll, which gives your team a defense boost for 30 seconds. And the ultimate technique scroll, which is a magenta and teal green color. And currently there are 2 secret techniques available, which are Gamma Bunta and the multiple kitting. So you can see why the scrolls can have such a big impact on how the match is played and what you can do with its buffs. At the start of the match, you should be doing one of 2 things, either removing the healer or taking advantage of the starting scroll. Most of the time, it's the healers going for the scroll at the start because the meta is currently the True Seeking Orb and Water Pillar. By doing this, you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Just make sure they're not standing on top of it because there's currently no jutsu that can stop True Seeking Orb. Now, as for Water Pillar, many things take that off, such as Fire Release Bullet, which is a ninja tool you can put on any class, Majestic Destroy Flame, which is a side of range, Hazan Strike, which is a side of defense, and Kurama Twin Impact, which is a side of attack, and more. Now obviously if you have multiple teammates that are being jumped, you should go and help them out. I'm not saying that the scroll is absolute power, but if you spawn in and it's nearby or your teammates are at a bit of a disadvantage, I'm sure they'd be happy to have the extra support. If you notice the enemies trying to go to the scroll, make them your number 1 priority and either beat them to it or knock them out, and tell a friend if you're playing with some to get it before the enemy does. Even if you're the last one on your team alive, it's worth grabbing that scroll. Now, if you don't know, the scroll buff only applies to enemy and teammates that are on the field. So any of the enemies or teammates that are knocked out will not be getting that buff. So you're probably thinking, why would you grab that scroll then? It's so the enemies can't have it. It's better to die with the rest of your team with the scroll grabbed than to be knocked out with the rest of your team and have their full team have a buff when your team is coming back into the field. Now let's talk about ninjutsu that can help you steal the scroll. Jutsu like Heavenly Hand Power and Flame Lightning in ranged, Universal Pull and Fly and Raijin if you were already on an attack, Snake Thrust, Ripple, and Sand Shield in defense, Water Pillar, True Seeking Orb, and Super Light and Bolter Jutsu in healing class, just to name a few. When you notice that an enemy has grabbed a scroll, take note of how they're playing. Depending on how they play, gives you an idea of what buff they got, so you should switch your fighting style accordingly. Now, if your team happens to get the scroll, assess which one it is so you can take full advantage of the limited time you have. I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty guilty of not knowing if I, a teammate, or the enemy team has grabbed a scroll, or what it is, so it really is a good idea to make sure that you keep an eye on who has a scroll and what it does. As for fighting the enemies that have the scroll and you know what buff they have, you should be on the defensive or super offensive if they have an attack buff, super offensive if they have a defense buff. Make sure you mix up your attacks and keep the pressure on them. Be on the defensive if they have a speed buff. Depending on who you're fighting and their skill level, either regroup with your team or knock out the enemy that you're fighting if they have the healing buff. Be on the defensive if they have the ninjutsu cooldown buff, and if they've picked up a secret technique, you might want to look out for Gamabunta and keep your eyes on the sky for Kidding, because I'm not gonna lie, the first one is an instant death. Now that you're prioritizing the scrolls, it's time to hop into the number 2 spot, bro, which is blocking and deflecting. Now I could be wrong about this, but the role type doesn't impact your guard strength much. If it does, then of course it's gonna be attack, range, and healing having around the same amount and defense having a little more, but for what I can tell, it's pretty much the same. Knowing when to utilize your block is important because it stops most of the incoming damage from enemy attacks. For an example, a few skills you can block the damage on are Rasengan, Lightning Blade, Phoenix Flame Scarlet Claw, Icicle Swallow, Toll Oil Bombs, Dragon Flame Bomb, Chasing True Seeker Orbs, and Chakra Scalpel. Now, even though you can block some of those skills, they'll still give you an element status effect or take away some of your skills and substitutions, so try to dodge the enemy instead of blocking those certain attacks, as well as some attacks aren't blockable like Amaterasu and Hazan Strike. Again, those attacks are to be dodged instead of blocked. When it comes to normal combos, you can block up until your guard turns red. Once it goes after red, your guard will be broken, so try not to take too many consecutive attacks. Don't forget that you can also block in midair. This is good for avoiding damage from Lightning Blade, Chidori, Ninja Tools, and other skills. Now that we've covered how much you can block, let's get into the second half of number 2, which is deflecting. Knowing how to deflect is a little bit more challenging than holding down your L2 or left trigger button. Keep in mind that incoming ninjutsu can't be deflected, only blocked. Only normal combos and certain heavy attacks can be properly deflected. Once the enemy is hitting you while you're blocked, press R2 or the right trigger to send your enemies flying back. You can also deflect in midair by timing your block and repeating the same pattern as if you were on the ground. Knowing how to deflect midair can knock your enemies into walls, making them fall to the bottom of the map. Give yourself enough time to use your ninja tools or start up a combo. To practice deflecting on the ground, I'd go into survival exercise and play practice so you can deflect the bots without, affecting your team, or going with a friend and help each other get better at deflecting. On to the classes that you can and can't deflect. Technically, you can properly deflect every class's attacks, but only their light combos. On attack class, you can deflect their light and heavy attacks, but try to do it quickly because their fast strikes will wear down your guard. Range class, light attacks, and heavies can be easily deflected since their heavy attacks are kunai. Defense class, light attack can be deflected, but I wouldn't recommend trying it with their heavy attack because when you do, most of the time they don't go flying back like the other classes. But heal class is a bit of a special case, where you can block and deflect their light attacks, but you can't block or deflect their heavy attacks since it's a one-hit guard break. Speaking of guard break, we're going to be moving on to the number 1 tip to help you improve your skills on ShinobiStriker, which is guard breaking. Being able to know how to break down the enemy's guard without being punished is one of the most important features in the game. Breaking the enemy's guard resets their substitution and leaves them open to take your full combo damage potential. There are a lot of jutsu that can one-tap the opponent's guard, such as Leaf Whirlwind, Leaf Rising Wind, Majestic Destroyer Flame, Snake Thrust, True Seeker Orbs, and others. You can also use the ninja tool like Fire Release Bullet to break the enemy's guard. Once you've noticed the block patterns of your enemy, you can easily punish it by using one of your jutsu. Now, like I mentioned, there are classes that are much easier at breaking the guard of enemies, but keep in mind, with clothing skills boosting block damage, you can easily shred through it. So your best bet at breaking the enemy's guard is with the healer. Their heavy sword slash can even one-tap the defense's guard like nothing, but since they have no health, they needed some kind of buff. Coming in second place with guard break capabilities is defense. Now keep in mind, I'm talking about the light and heavy attack wise, so don't go in the comments and start typing, I can see you right now, well defense is the best because demon hunt. No! You stop typing that comments. You stop it right now. Don't finish it. But coming in second to last place is attack. It seems like the best weapon for breaking the guard is hand-to-hand combat with a downward strike, but the scientific ninja claw spiral is pretty solid as well. Then coming in dead last is the ranged class with kunai, serving no purpose of breaking guard, but to be used as a zoning tool. I know that for the number 1 spot it seems kinda simple, but trust me, you can't grab a scroll, use your clothing skills, block or deflect if your guard is broken. But that about sums up my 5 tips to help you improve your playstyle on Shinobi Strikers. I still have a lot more, but these are the 5 main points that I wanted to cover that weren't too difficult to master. Now we're currently closing in on 500 family members here on YouTube, and I'd appreciate it if you were along for the ride. Almost 70% of you guys who watch my videos are not subscribed. What are you doing? Go on ahead, do me that favor, subscribe, bro. I'd really appreciate it. You have no idea. Honestly, make my day. Again, if you want to see the defense video that is a full health bar knockout, you can click the video here on the left side of your screen. If you want to subscribe, go on ahead and click the little icon in the middle. And if you want to see a devastating 95% damage attack class combo, click the video on the right. Now, if you want to keep up to date with me on what I'm doing or just hang out, go on ahead and join the Dark Army Discord. I'm trying to revive it because I've just revamped it, you know what I mean? So I'm trying to get y'all up in there, right? I'm trying to do some watch along and stuff and some other fun things to come. And also DM me on Instagram. That's where I'm most active at mainly. But with that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys all in a new video in a couple of days. Peace, y'all.